Hey, good morning. This is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here, Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi, located in Yerushalayim Kodesh on Rehov Zrafi Rockford number 6, in the Beit Knesset of Chanukah Yeshivas. We're not too far from the central bus station, so please feel free to join us. You can walk from there, you can bus, drive. Coming from Kutzlars, please, we'd love to have you participate in our shirim. Here our first shir. We have breakfast, coffee, and we're learning Pirkei Avos. Last but certainly not least, we're learning the Pirkei Avos, first parak, second mishnah, Shimon et Tzadik Hayim Yisharei Knesset Gedolah. He was the remaining, not necessarily the remaining only one of the Knesset Gedolah, but he was one of those remainders of the Knesset Gedolah. And Vaya Omer Al Shloshu Devarim Ha'olim Omer Al Torah Al Avoda Ba'al Hagimos Tasayim. Okay, today we're going to look at the Maharal Mikrad's commentary. That's number 4 on our sheets. Rahmi, not
Yeah.
read?
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Derech Chaim al Avot, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Bet. Shimon HaTzadik היה משערי אנשי כנסת גדולה. Those are the remainders of the כנסת גדולה, אנשי כנסת גדולה. יש לשאול למה הוא צריך לומר. Why was it needed to say this? שהיה משערי אנשי כנסת גדולה, it was the remainders of the אנשי כנסת גדולה. ולא אמר שהיה מי אנשי כנסת גדולה. And he was, why didn't it say it was just one of them?
Oh. Right. So again, just
the remaining of one.
Right. So why do you have to say the remaining, the remainder of the Anshe Knesset? Could we just say it's from the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, meaning that this is I think in a bit contrast, but not to argue on what we learned in the in number 3 in the Magen Avos. That if you just take a look there where it says that Magen Avos Rashba brought down Rashi, right, Rabbeinu Shlomo. Take a look what he says there.
כתב שלא היה עמהם בימי עזרא בתחילת הבית. That talking about Shimon HaTzadik. He wasn't with them in the days of Ezra at the beginning of the second temple. והאמת הוא שלא היה בתחילת הבית, אבל בכלל כנסת גדולה קיבלו, אבל בכלל כנסת גדולה שקיבלו מהנביאים היה. The truth is that he wasn't at the beginning of the Beit Sheni, but he was one of the Anshei Knesset Gedolah that received from the prophets.
Oh, so it's like that. So that's what shadows a bit the morale. The meaning, we would know if it had just said he's from the Anshe Knesset Gedolah. We would know that he had received the Kabbalah from the Nevi'im, because the Nevi'im had given the Kabbalah over to the Anshe Knesset Gedolah. If he was in one of the, it would be sufficient enough to know that he was from the Anshe Knesset Gedolah to understand that he was from the Nevi'im. The Kabbalah was read from the Nevi'im, right? So why do we have to know specifically that it was Mishari Anshe Knesset Gedolah? He was from the remainder of those of the Anshe Knesset Gedolah. That's the question of the Maharal.
Okay. Back to Maharal?
Yeah, I think so.
Second line, the Lo Amar Shai Anshe Gedolah. He didn't say he was one of them.
Yeah, that L'chora would have been sufficient. Meaning, why the point is why mention that he was
one of the last ones.
One of the last ones. That must be significant. If the Mishnah is going out of its way to tell us this, must be significant for some reason, and we're trying to explore why that was important for us to know.
Okay. This proves Perush, the explanation Shamarim that we said, Tochachot Musa Hem Lefi Ador. The chastising of the generation is according to
this like the Tochachos Musa, the chastising guidance has to be according to the generation. If you're chastising and you're trying and giving guidance, it has to be according to the generation. Right, so this is an emphasis, because and the Maharal is bringing his explanation of why we have to be taught that it was from the Shari Knesset Gedola, because it's important to know that his statement, his three things that he mentioned, we'll be going back to that.
And what period of time he's talking to? Which generation he's talking to?
Oh, so that's
why he must have said what he said.
Yes.
Oh, okay. ולפיכך לא נמצא מוסר קודם אנשי כסגולה. Therefore, there wasn't any Musa chastisement before Anshe Kesgula. Before the Anshe Kesgula.
Okay, so now, now that
everybody was tzaddikim, I guess.
Well, we have to understand what that means, because there were plenty of Nevi'im, right, that were giving quite a lot of chastisement and tochacha to Klal Yisrael. That was before. That was the time of the bias. So I'm not exactly clear what the Mishnah, the Maharal Miprag is meaning by this. We'll have to leave this a little bit. I'm not sure. I haven't worked this out yet.
Okay. רק מן אנשי כסגולה כולם יחד שהיו עדה קדושה. But only at the time of the Anshe Kesgula, kulam, everybody was together. So Eidah Kedusha, they were a holy congregation.
Very good. Right.
Uvadai, and of course, Hador Haya Yoter Shalem. Which door?
The Anshe Knesset Gedola, right?
Uvadai Hador Haya Yoter Shalem. This door of the Anshe Kesgula was more complete, or shalem, or whole?
Like perfect. Shalom, many times, depending on the context, the word shalom can be translated very well, easily as being perfect.
Imperfect. That they all passed away.
Yeah. Right. Well, it could be they were Ubavada Yadur Haya, meaning the door of the Anshe Knesset Gedola was definitely more perfect. Meshar Kvar Hotu Kulam La'olamam.
Oh, Meshar Kvar Hotu Kulam La'olamam. Thank you. So they were more perfect than Anshe Knesset Gedola from the previous generations.
Yeah, that's a very big statement that they were reached a certain aspect.
I would have thought there was a decline in generations.
In general, you do see that. I mean, that it could be like this. In general, you do see that there is a general decline. However, there can be individuals, right? Or perhaps even an individual generation, right, that does have a certain type of excellence and perfection to it that even previous generations didn't have. Okay. It could be that the generation of Anshe Knesset Gedola, they had a certain excellence to them that even previous generations didn't have.
It was going up in perfection with the Anshe Knesset Gedola.
Yeah, I mean, he reached the peak. I mean, there's obviously a downward trend, but even in this trend, you can have certain peaks of perfection. Perhaps that's just trying to fit it into what the Maharal is saying. It could be that might be the Metzias here.
There wasn't. It didn't remain except for the Anshe Knesset Gedola, except for Shimon Tzadik. Only Shimon. He was the only one left.
He was exceptional. Now, two things here. We see that Maharal is apparently learning that he was the Acharon. Meaning we discussed that a bit yesterday and the day before as to whether or not he was the one and only last one, or he was amongst the last ones. So we saw some indications in the portion that they learned that there were other Ma'achronim. Yeah, but the Maharal is saying clearly that he was the one and only exceptional last member left of the Anshe Knesset Gedola, which is we're gonna have to working on it now. I'm not going to present it too much right now, but we learned previously that Chagai, the Gemara even makes statements that Chagai was even perhaps at the time very close to the time of the Korban Abayis. which was that was
By Shini?
by Sheni.
He was a prophet.
Yeah, he was one of the Anshe Knesset Gedolah.
How did it Shalom then?
Could be. There are those that say Mordechai. Mordechai lived into to be more than 400 years old.
Wow.
He was also from the Anshe Knesset Gedolah. So you have two examples, perhaps. That's according to Rashi. Tosfos objects, and it doesn't feel the necessity of having to say that Mordechai lived to be almost 400 years plus. But the Rashi does indicate that, and you have this Gemara which seems to indicate that Chagai Navi was there, could be over even up until the time of the Korban Abayis. So Shimon Tzaddik, right? First of all, obviously he was exceptional, but nevertheless Chagai himself was a prophet. Mordechai himself was also a prophet, and apparently we have indications that they lived long well as well. So, but. That's what we have to work out. I'm trying to formulate a way of understanding that.
So Shimon Tzaddik saw Mordechai?
Yeah. Mordechai was part of the Anshe Knesset Gedolah.
The Purim happened before then.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
7 years before then?
No, Purim happened at the end of the 70 years Golas. And there was about 3 years. Achashverosh lived for I think 3 years after the events of Purim, right? And then his son Darius took over, who was the son of Esther, and he was the one who actually gave the okay for the rebuilding of the Bayis Sheni. Yeah. And Mordechai, according to many opinions that we've seen, Mordechai was part of the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, and the Anshe Knesset clearly came to Eretz Yisrael, to Yerushalayim, and were instrumental in resettling Yerushalayim and rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash, and setting up all the various different prayers and things that we have. Many of the laws and customs we have up until this very day were based on the legislation of the Anshe Knesset Gedolah.
They came from the Galus,
Yes. They were
very. Where they situated?
Mostly in Furst. Yeah, it could have been, although there were Jews throughout the whole world. Yeah. Perhaps if the word went out, right, that the Jews were going back to Yerushalayim to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, other Jews who were spread out in other. Because clearly, that's the whole point about Purim. The 127 Medinas of Avos were all subjugated to his rule in order that all the Jews could be, included in the decree. Right. So there were Jews spread out in other places in the world as well. Right. But there was obviously a concentration in Babel. But I imagine when those who heard the word going out that the Jews were allowed to now return to Yerushalayim and rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, those who heard it and had the desire, I'm sure they came. Mm-hmm. So the Maharal is learning that he was the Achron, and he was a Yochid. Okay, so that needs a little bit of explanation still. Okay. And he says that's Pshat Rashi too. Became Perish Rashi.
Perish Rashi Zal. Mishiarei Anshe Knesset Gedolah. It's from the remnants of the Anshe Knesset Gedolah with a Shon Shirayim, leftovers.
That's right.
Vaya Oto Zman Domeh V'do Shel Acharav. Vaya Oto Zman at the same time was similar to the generation Shel Acharav that was afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Now, also, since we're repeating Rashi again, I mean, I think we were Dayak a few days ago. The Lashon the Mishnah is Shimon Tzaddik Hayim Mishuri Knesset Gedolah. He wasn't Shi'iri. He wasn't the Shi'iri. He wasn't the remaining one of the.
This is Nafshi over here.
Somebody, please, we have breakfast. If you're coming from the bus station, you can walk.
Okay.
Take a bus if you're driving.
I have a horse. I came on a horse.
Oh, that also works. Okay. Just leave it buried outside. Okay. We're in the middle of the Maharal in Prague here.
Number 4.
Rashi.
Okay, Perish Rashi.
Yeah.
Mishiarei Anshe Knesset Gedolah with the Shon Shirayim. Remainders. V'haya Oto Azman.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what would be the signal. That's a lashon plural, right? Shi'urim, right? It's plural. Right. Remainders. What would be the lashon yachid? Lashon yachid.
Also, the other thing is not shirayim.
Lashon Yachid. The remainder. The one who remains.
Or it's Anisha, I guess.
Hanisha. He doesn't say, the Mishnah doesn't say Hanisha, right? Because the morale.
לא יחיד.
Yeah. See, it wasn't, but the morale is learning clearly, right? Who Hatzadik, Nisha Rak, Shimon Hatzadik Bilvan, who Hayeh Yochid. So he's saying, apparently morale is learning he was the one and only last one. Hanisha, I should have said it, according to that, the Mishnah said Hanisha, the one who remained from the Anshe Keneses Gadol. But the Lashon is Sha'arim, right? Misharim, from the remainders, from the remnant. Okay, so we have different ways of working understanding this. Okay, let's continue. Ken Perish Rashi. Right?
Okay, וכן פירוש רש"י, צה"ל, משרי, זוג חצקו אליו, ולשון שיריים, some leftovers, והיה אותו הזמן, דומה לדור של אחריו. At the same time, it was similar to the generation that was afterwards. So לא נמצא אז כל אנשי גדולה, רק יחיד היה. לא נמצא, שהרי,
יחידים. לא יחיד, יחידים.
So now you see he's going into it. He says, Haya Osasman, Doimer the door shall Acharav. It was similar to the door that came afterwards. Shahari Lodium says, as Kol Anshi Knesses Gadola, Rak Yechid Haya. Rather, he was the only remainder, right? And all those people of the Anshi Knesses Gadola. Bezeh Doimer Hadur Ledur Sha'acharav. Meaning, since I think he's explaining as follows. If and he's explaining, he's really being very clear about it, that he was the final last member of the Anshe Knesses Gadola, which made it what? That made it as if he was the next generation. Meaning, since everyone in his generation has now passed, it would make it as if he would be, right? V'zeh hayedoimer hadur ledur sha'achro. It would be like that generation is going to be now like the next generation, the generation after the Anshe Knesses Gadola. Why? Shalom nimtzu
rak yechidim. Those fewer singles. Shalom nimtzu rak yechidim. A few of them. Shayu avot. Ador. So the avot the fathers of the generation. Moshe nimtza gavkin. Be'antignus Socho. שהיה אחר שמעון הצדיק, וכן הזוגות שהיו אחר תימוס.
Right, so they all were, each one of them that are mentioned, we'll be seeing it further on in the first paragraph of Avos here, that Shimon Tzadik, right, Antigonus was Kabul from Shimon Tzadik, so he was the Av of the door. And likewise, those who followed after him. Each one that's mentioned, they're mentioned specifically because they were the Av of the door. They represented the full-fledged, absolute inheritance of Torah from each generation to the next, down afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
ועוד כי מה שנקראו, who's the Avot of the door?
Those who were mentioned
Shimon Tzadik?
Shimon Tzadik, he would be considered like the Avos door. Now that would be what? That would be not the door of the Anshe Knesses Gadola,
no,
right? Because they had the prophets and the 120 elders, and Ezra was there amongst them, right? So he would be the Av of that door. He's going to be the Av of the door that follows the Anshe Knesses Gadola. That's the point. So that's why he's emphasizing, I think, that he was the one and singular Yachid that was now there afterwards. Although, as we'll have to bring in later on, we mentioned Chagai was, as I mentioned, was even until maybe perhaps the end of the year. And Mordechai also lived, according to Rashi, Mordechai lived a long time. So we'll have to try to come to grips with this point.
There's a sefer Tuscharim.
What we're going to see there on the Sefer Yuchsin, we're going to see that's over here. We're going to get the Sefer Yuchsin. Where is it? Sefer Yuchsin. Have to see where it was. We'll have to see where it's brought down. Sefer Yuchsin. We quote that. Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
sefer like that.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get to
Ben
that.
Ezri also made a sefer like that. There's also a sefer that we didn't know a long time ago.
Tell them more. Yes.
Okay, continuing. Or ki mashaliku anshe knesset gevula. The fact that it was called the anshe knesset gevula, supposed to show this perush, its explanation. Knessia. Knessia shel gedolim.
Right, they were a gathering of the great ones of that generation.
וזהו מצד הכלל שכולם ביחד. וזה מצד הכלל. This is from the side of the cloud, the collection.
Right, from the general group.
The group, I guess, כולם ביחד. Everyone's together. ושמעון הצדיק, צדיק אחד פרטי. Shimon Tzaddik was a singular righteous person, prati, specifically or privately, exceptionally. Haya vehu b'china b'fnei atzmo. He's an aspect in of it by itself.
Right. It was singularly exceptional, and he was in a class by himself.
What does it mean? What does it compare it to call all the Anshe?
Even the Anshe, even amongst the Anshe, Shimon Tzaddik had special qualities, right? Even amongst those great ones, 120 great ones, the Zikanim of them, the prophets of the
He was the longest one, right? The longest Kohen Gadol.
40 years. Yeah, 40 years.
The longest Kohen Gadol. Did you ever be there? Did you ever that was Kevin?
And that was it.
I don't think so.
It's not from that's next to us in here. Go on the street and something.
Who else was called Hatzadik? There's only one other guy.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're talking about who the two guys ever called Tzaddik?
That's right. You don't get that title for nothing.
No.
So it was exceptional even amongst the Anshe Knesset Gedolah.
Mm-hmm.
It was exceptional.
That's right.
The finest of the fine.
That's right. Okay, let's continue on a bit.
לכך מחלק הכנסייה הקדושה אנשי כנסת גדולה. Therefore the מחלק it divides or
It was split, it was divided or categorized. The Anshe Knesset Gedolah, right?
שני בחינות, two facets.
Very good. Two facets. Very good. What are they?
אחת מצד החיבור, on one side, from the side of the חיבור, the
Association.
shall כולם ביחד, everybody together,
Right,
and
so
then
that's
it.
right. So that was something exceptional about the Anshe Knesset Gedolah. They all 120. They had a certain association. The group, right? They themselves as a group represented something very unique and individual.
Maybe they sat together like a Sanhedrin.
Yeah, I'm sure they
Because
said.
they sit
Sure,
together.
that's what they said.
והם אמרו מוסר אחד, and they said, who said?
Meaning the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, they all Amru Musar Esa. They all gave one message. They all were speaking as one voice, one message.
הבחינה, the aspect of the השנייה, the second facet, מצד הפרט, the aspect of the private aspect, שהיה שמעון צדיק משערי כנסת גדולה. It was one of the remainders of the כנסת גדולה. הוא אמר מוסר בפני עצמו. He said a musar by himself, in and of himself.
Just as the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, they gave one specific message, right, as unified. Shimon Tzaddik also, in the same way, he gave a specific unified message coming from him himself.
That was all the time when he was with them, or after?
I think it
that?
was after them, because while he was with them, so he was within that group.
Right.
Now he carried on, right, after they were all gone, he carried on, and he inherited, he gave over the inheritance of Torah to the next generation by giving out this message, which was his unique message for the next
He
generation.
coined the phrase the new generation. Okay. לפיכך אמר שהוא צדיק, שהצדיק היה משערי כנסת גדולה. It was the remainder of the Knesset Gedolah.
So that's why he was called the Mishari Knesset Gedolah. Meaning, so even though the Maral is saying pretty clearly that he was a Yochid and he was the Acharon, apparently he's saying that he was the Acharon, but he's really emphasizing he's more than his exceptional status and message that he was giving to his next new generation after the Anshe Knesset Gedolah. That's what set him apart from everyone else, and that's why he was called the Shari Knesset Gedolah, from the remnant of the Anshe Knesset Gedolah. Now, as to whether or not he was the one and only one that was left, that may not necessarily be the case, even according to the Maharal. However, he was unique in his specific message that he was giving to that next new generation. Therefore, he is called the one who is the Mishari Knesset Gedolah. Right? So it may not be necessary to make it a machlokas, a dispute as to whether or not there were others who were remaining from the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, but even in spite of the fact that they may have been, and there may have been others who might have even outlived him, maybe for example Haggai, maybe for example Mordechai, maybe they even outlived him, but in terms of his message, the relevance for the next generation, Shimon Tzaddik was unique and exceptional in that, and that's why he was referred to as the Shari Knesset Gedolah, because that's what he started off by saying in the third line there, right? He says the third line, Shetochachus Musarheim Lefi Hadur. The message of the chastisement for each generation has to be according to each generation. That's the third line right there from the beginning, where number 4, Derech Chaim of the Avos, the third line right underneath there, right? Tochachas Musarheim Lefi Hadur, right? That was the significance of Shimon Tzaddik, that he had the message that was given over to the next following generation, was unique and specialized for that next new generation, according to the needs of that new generation, and therefore he is called the one who was the Mishari Knesset Gedolah. I think that would be sufficient up until that. We have a little bit more in the Maharal to do tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem, and then we'll see a few more things. So we'll continue tomorrow. Mitzvah Shem is